One thing that pops in my head would be possibly, and this is not a hard rule, but possibly connecting with family and friends that are supporting, like that are part of that support at the end of life, to sort of just so they can be maybe not in the room during the session, but sort of part of it, knowing what's going on, so that they, if there's like a drastic change in the person, being like, hey, I'm actually, feeling a little bit better. It's like they're not just taking that as like a negative thing, because I think a lot of sometimes there's like a stigma where it's like, oh, well, they just took a drug and now they're like ready to die. um, I think definitely having like a spiritual intelligence, whatever that might mean. So understanding, you know, humanity's past, and sort of like maybe some maps of like afterlife, whether it's like the Christian model or the Tibetan Book of the Dead, or just like Stan Groff's models. I think is really important. I think it's important anyway, but definitely for the palliative work to sort of be able to go into these deep places and be able to hold space for that. um, Being okay with big emotions, I think, is important too, because a lot of times the folks are going to be dealing with grief, and fear and anxiety, and a lot of times too, like in my experience, what I've noticed is they're still dealing with a lot of the family of origin stuff. So it's like, yes, they're moving towards the end of life, but it's like they're wanting to tie the loose ends. They're wanting to work through the traumas of the past and understand their narrative, and connect with people that maybe they haven't talked to, so it's a lot of like tying up stuff, and so really supporting that in a good way. What else? Um, I think, I mean, obviously, medically having someone supporting it. I think with Section 56, you have to, so you have to have a doctor. So knowing the risks that are involved, because there may be more, maybe like contraindicators, things like that. Understanding, if you've never worked in palliative or hospice, like understanding what that is and the role of that, and how psychedelics have had a history in that, since the 50s and 60s. What else? Yeah, I think once again, like spiritual intelligence and self-awareness of our own biases towards death or illness, because if you're not doing your work, it's going to pop up in the session. So really knowing, like, if you're going to be doing the work, like, am I comfortable with talking about death? Like, do I talk about death with friends and family? Like, is it a comfortable thing? Because if not, then they're going to really be able to tell if you're not wanting to go there. And if the therapist can't go there, then it stunts the person
Mm.
from going there, right? So really comes back to like your own self work, your own core beliefs about things, your own spiritual intelligence, your own ability to hold those big emotions, and regulating your nervous system. It's like, if someone is weeping for 3 hours, are you okay with that? Can you hold space for that? Can you, even if it doesn't mean that you're a robot and that you're not getting reactions from it, but can you react and be okay with that and hold that, in a way that doesn't disturb the person? Like, you can be kind of crying, but if you're getting in the way of the person's process and they're having to like take care of you, then you're not doing a good job. Um, yeah, so that would be, yeah, anything from there. Well, I mean, in a lot of ways, like, they're preparing for death, but then it's like they're also, in a lot of ways, seeing life in a new way. And so there's this gratitude and this real grounded, mindful presence to just be where they are for the remainder, whatever that, whatever the time span is. But I think in a lot of ways, the integration could look like bringing integrity to the experience. So it's like, I need to like really stay with what showed up, or I need to continue to look at this thing that showed up, or I need to talk to these people that I realized I need to connect with before I go, or yeah, working with the family. And so I think, yeah, integration with palliative folks would be a little bit broader and maybe a little bit more directive. Like, if there are sort of insights that the therapist is seeing, of course, it's never super directive, it's always invitational, but if the therapist is seeing, there's a few things that they're getting hits on where it might be important, then because of the immediacy of the potential, passing, really being able to support them in a way that might be a little bit more holding their hand than if the person's just sort of like, 35 and, just doing it for fun. And of course they want to integrate, but it's not like they need to get stuff sort of in order before they go. And I really like spiritual practices, like, inviting people to develop a practice. So people may suddenly start to pray, and that might give them comfort to connect with the thing that they connected with in their session, and continuing to do that throughout the weeks or months to keep that bridge open, so that when they're going, they're sort of, they know they built that relationship to that process a little bit. And a lot of times, yeah, the fear will lessen, because they're like, oh, I'm not like totally going, I'm just transitioning into another space, and I've now been there and I know that it's fine. So it's really just supporting that, and allowing them to stay with the processes and not get too in their head, as always. um yeah.